Alexa. Wow, that's that works. Ball is thrown from a height of 10 feet above the ground. The ball starts with a vertical speed of 64 feet per second. Ignoring friction, the equation is this. They give you the equation. Children, really, this whole thing is immaterial. They give you the equation. They tell you, find the highest point of the ball and how long it takes to reach that point. That simply means this. When you graph that equation, that's going to give you a parabola. Okay, it's going to give you this little shape here. When you throw a ball up, it's that parabola. Okay, and this is that standard form of a quadratic equation. They are looking for this point. The height, the highest point the ball is going is right here. And at that point, that is the maximum where your axis of symmetry is. The x-axis is the time, whatever it is. I don't even know. I can't put the dots down there. Okay, so whatever you get, whatever you get for x, whatever you get for the axis of symmetry, that is this point. That is the time. And then when you put that axis of symmetry in, wherever that height is, whatever that is the height. The h, or the y, is the height, and the t is the time. So all you have to do, write on your little notes. Number one, you are going to find the axis of symmetry, which means it's at negative b over 2a. Here's your a, there's your b, there's your c. Negative b is negative 64 over, negative 64 over 2 times negative 16. And what is 2 times negative 16? Negative 32. What is negative 64 over negative 32? 2. That is 1, 2. That is your time. That's where the 2 seconds came from. This ball achieves its greatest height 2 seconds after he threw it. Okay? And then you need to find what that height is, and you do that by putting 2 into that equation. Negative 16 times 2 squared, negative 16 times 2 squared, plus 64 times 2 plus 10 will give you the y value that goes along with this x value. You just plug in that 2 into that equation. 2 times 2 is 4. 4 times negative 16 is negative 64. Plus 64 times 2, which is 128, plus 10. If you do the math there, negative 64 plus 128 is a positive 64. 64 plus 10 is 74. At 2 seconds, this ball achieves a height of 74 feet. Those are the 2 answers. You just find the axis of symmetry, plug that number in, whatever number you get for that, that is its height. Bam. Number 1 done, everybody gets it right. Jacob?
So, how do you find the maximum? Like, do you know for sure where it is, or do you estimate?
No. My maximum's right here, 74.
Oh, so
whatever you put the axis of symmetry. On the axis of symmetry, it's going to get its maximum. So whatever this number you got for the axis of symmetry, you put that in. This point right there is 2, 74, if you're graphing the point. 2 is the time, 74 is the feet. In 2 seconds, it'll be 74 feet off the ground. At 0 seconds, actually at 0 seconds, it starts 10 feet off the ground. So this parabola actually comes up there. At 1 second, you put ones into there. You get something, 34, 44 feet. Shouldn't be any more difficult than that. Grace.
10.
Number 10. Is that on this page or the other page? It's on this one? Wait, the one I was just on or the one I just went to now?
The one you went to, the one before.
This one. 7, 8, 9, 10. Children, you will remember if I have 2y squared minus 3y cubed minus 9y plus 6. The only way to factor something that has more, well, a 4-term thing is to do it by grouping. In other words, you need to look at each thing, separate this into this and this, and factor it, and hope that you get a common factor after you factor something out. So if you look at this first group, what can you take out of both of those two terms? A y squared, right? If I take a y squared out, I'm left with 2 minus 3y. And the only way this is going to work is if I get a 2 minus 3y in my other parenthesis over there. If I don't, it doesn't really work. So, what am I going to take out of this one over here? What's the common factor? Now, your choice is either a negative or a positive 3. Okay? Now, let's go with a negative 3 right off the bat. If I take a negative 3 out, take a negative out of a negative, I'm left with a positive 3y and a negative 2. Okay? If that's the case, you look at this, and this one is exactly completely opposite of that. That's okay, because you can fix the whole problem by doing this. Make this a positive, and these become their negatives. So now these two terms are alike, and when that happens, you keep that one in parentheses, and you make a parenthesis out of the two outside terms. So that's where the y squared plus 3y comes from. We did do this, it's been a while. I'm not sure, what lesson did you say this came out of, 87? Maybe you didn't do so much there. That's grouping, or that's factoring by grouping. You're supposed to get that little thing in there. Sammy? Huh? Problem 4. Midpoint formula is what? Isn't it x, wait, x of 2 plus x of 1 divided by 2, because it's the average of those two. That's your first point. And y sub 2 plus y sub 1 divided by 2, that's your second point. It doesn't matter which ones you count. Usually I go with these being, this is x2, y2. Am I wrong? Oh, yeah. This is x1, y1. So you just plug those in there. They are 3 plus 6 over 2. And the second one is negative 5 plus 1 over 2. Well, this is 9 halves, which is the first point, and this is 4 over 2, 2 for the second point. That's your answer. I'm sorry, 9 halves. Or 4 and a half. Now what did I do wrong, Michael? What did I do? What? This 9 over 2? Oh, yeah, this should be 9 over 2. I don't know why I did 4. Yeah. Why is what 2?
Why is there 2?
That was the formula.
No, why is there 2 in there?
Oh, because you add
Here,
Oh,
3 plus 6.
negative, or, oh, this should be negative 2 as well. Isn't it negative 2? Negative 5 plus 1 is negative 4. All over 2 should be negative 2. Sorry. Okay.
So you take,
You just add the x's together, divide by 2, add the y's together.
so you
divide
take
by
the back numbers basically and then add them together like 1.
2. It doesn't matter which one you call. You add these together, divide by 2, add those together, divide by 2. This is your x point, divide by 2, your y point, divide by 2. You're finding the average of them. That's what the midpoint is.
But can't you, so when you add 3 plus 6, can't you like add, or you divide that into like a different fraction? So like, you get like 3, or yeah.
4.5, yeah.
Oh, you think so?
If you go away 4.5, 4.5, I don't care, whatever 9 halves is the same, you got it right, didn't you? Oh, hey, you're in 8th grade, you should recognize that 9 halves is the same as 4.5.
You're wrong.
Evan,
13.
13. Love 13. A ramp extends from a 4-foot high platform and pointed around 20 feet away Find the length of the ramp in the diagram below, round your answer to the nearest tenth of a foot. Alright, I'm struggling why this should have been difficult for you, because it's simply what? The Pythagorean theorem. What's that? A squared plus B squared equals C squared. The part you're missing is the C squared, so you just have 4 squared plus 20 squared equals C squared. 16 plus 400 equals C squared. 416 equals C squared, so C equals the square root of 416, which that's where a point I would grab a calculator, which I don't have right here. I'm guessing you're going to get what the answer was, what? Somebody? What? If I take the calculator and I take 416 square root, where are you at, square root? 20.4. So where did we go wrong there?
Oh, I got 4 in the square root of 26.
What?
I got 4 in the square root of 26. Because I did it that way.
Oh, but it says to draw, do it to the nearest tenth. I wouldn't bother with that, and all you do is have calculators.
I didn't have So you can leave it as
Calvin,
11.
11. Is that on this paper? Yeah. People, you overthink this. The book could not give you anything any easier, really, than these, realistically. It took blah, blah, blah. All this stuff seems really confusing because you got all this gobbledygook here, but this is the key. You're just supposed to find the rate in miles per minute. Miles per minute. And they tell you the miles and they tell you the minute. This is the miles, it goes on top. This is how long it took, that goes on the bottom. You put that in there and you just simplify. Miles is 3x minus 9 over x cubed. That's all going to get divided by 2x squared minus 6x over 2x. Which looks really complicated, but it's just a fraction divided by a fraction. How do you do a fraction divided by fraction? You've done it since 5th grade. Divide by fractions, you flip and multiply. So you're going to take this and multiply it by that thing flipped over. 3x minus 9 over x cubed times 2x over 2x squared minus 6x. Now again, that doesn't look good, but you're just going to cross cancel what you can. For example, factor this out, it's 3 times x minus 3. You're hoping for an x minus 3 down here. What can you take out of both of those? A 2x, which is x minus 3. Yay! X minus 3's cross off. These two x's cross off. And it looks like you're left with 3 over x cubed. Did I miss something? Don't let all the gobbledygook confuse you. It's just there. Christine?
For number 10 and number 13, number 10, isn't it just y squared plus 3? You just did y squared plus 3.
Is 10 on the other page? It very well could be. Sometimes I'm so close to this.
Because you put y squared plus 3.
Oh, it's just, yeah, it's just y squared plus
And
3.
then for number 13, can you also just do the distance formula?
Distance formula, sure.
That's also getting higher.
But,
Is it,
but isn't the distance formula when you have 2 points?
I know, but wouldn't it just be like those?
Well, the distance formula is what we call a derivative thing. I'm sure it would work. You're just plugging in, you just plug in the A, B's, and the C's into the thing, and it work. Did it work out? Yeah, it'll be the same thing, sure. Absolutely. Now where are we at? Yep. You wanna do number 3? Determine whether the trinomial below is a perfect square trinomial. If it is, factor it. First thing you have to do is, before you look at anything, when you factor, you're supposed to look for what? Do they have a common factor you can take out right away? 8, 8, and 2, you can take 2 out, so you're left with 4x squared minus 4x plus 1. And what they're asking you is, can you take this trinomial and break it into 2 identical binomials that would be the same? That's the perfect square part. So if you take this and break it down, well, you end up with the exact same binomial times the exact same binomial. Well, these all have to be, this has to be a perfect square, that has to be a perfect square. Now, does that work here? Let's see. Well, what times what gives you this? It has to be 2x and 2x. What times what gives you a positive 1? But would also have to give you a negative in the middle, which means they would both have to be, if this works, it's got to be this. And do you get that? Sure, because this times this gives you 4x squared. This times this gives you positive 1. This is a negative 2x when you do the middle ones, and it's a negative 2x when you do the outside ones, which add together to get that. So yes, it is a perfect square. And if you factor it, you end up with, this is the answer the book had, because that's what it is. 2x minus 1 times 2x minus 1. Now, will tomorrow's? I don't know. Maybe. Maybe not. Who haven't we had yet? Gary Ronning.
Could you please do number 12?
I love 12. Where is it? The other page? Find the least common denominator. Oh, they don't ask you to add these together. They just ask you to find the least common denominator. Okay. Now all you have to do is look at these bottoms. If you are adding these fractions together, let me just write that out. It doesn't even matter whether it's plus or minus. 8 over x squared plus 2x minus 8. If you were adding those together, what would be your common denominator? Well, in order to figure that out, I should make this look a little better, you need to factor this. And that factors into what? X plus 4 times x minus 2, correct? And this was an x plus 4. What is, if you factor that out, find the least common multiple, you take the group that has the most of each different factor.
It's least
It's the same thing. Least common multiple and least common denominator are exactly the same. Which one has the most x plus 4s? They both have 1, so you just take an x plus 4. Which group has the most x minus 2s? This one. And that is your answer. Did they give it that, or did they give you this? Did they remultiply it or no? Does the answer this? Didn't have to do the addition part, so it just said fine. What's that?
I got it wrong because I did
I would have gave it to you. You should probably have that on the bottom, did you? Evan.
5.
I was hoping somebody would call out 5, even though I don't even know what it is. Find the product.
Really? I just got
2 minus the square root of 7. Did you put it down twice?
Yes.
Did you use FOIL?
Yes.
What did you get when you multiply 2 times 2?
It's 4.
4. What did you get when you did the 2 outside terms?
Minus 2 times square root of 7.
Minus 2 square roots of 7. What did you do when you got the inside terms?
Minus 2 and square root of 7.
Minus 2 square roots of 7. What did you get when you do the last terms?
Minus 7.
Negative times a negative is positive. And 7 times 7 is 49, and it is, but it's plus 7. So you can put the 4 with the 7 and get 11, and minus 2 square roots of 7 and another minus 2 square roots of 7 is minus 4 square roots of 7. You're not multiplying, so you don't, square roots don't go away. If you multiply them, yes. So far I'm feeling good about this. Nobody asked about the probability one.
What's one probably?
G. Ronnie?
17.
There, lead underwater, but you can't reach them right. Adding, yeah, see there's, this one does say to add. So this one you're gonna have to find the least common multiple, common denominator thing. 3x cubed over 2x squared plus 2x over 4x. You need to come up with what is the least common multiple or least common denominator of 2x squared and 4x. Well, looking at the numbers, if you have 2 and 4, what's your common denominator? 4. If you're adding the fractions 1/2 plus 1/4 together, you'd have a 4 on the bottom. Now you have an x squared and you have an x. What is the least common multiple of those two? Take the group that has the most, so it has to be x squared. It's not x cubed. You could do x cubed, but then there's gonna be some, at the end you're gonna have to do a lot of reducing kind of things. So now you just do this. What times 4x gives you 4x squared? You multiply by an x, so you have to multiply this by an x. 2x times x is 2x squared. What times this gives you 4x squared? Times 2, so you have to multiply this times 2, you get 6x cubed. Now you can add them together. You'll have your 4x squared on the bottom. What is 6x cubed plus 2x squared? Lutz? It is not. What is 6x cubed plus 2x squared? Ryan? It is. No. Calvin, what is 6x cubed plus 2x squared?
6x squared plus 2x squared.
6x cubed. Yeah, they're not like terms, people. You can't put them together. It's just 6x cubed plus 2x squared. Now you're not done because you still have to see if you can't reduce. And I can't reduce as it is because the top's not factors. But you can make them factors by taking what out of both of these two? What's their common factor? A 2x squared. And if you take a 2x squared out, you're left with a 3x. 2x squared times 3x gives you that. 2x squared times 1 gives you that term. And then guess what happens? These are all factors, so you can cross off the x squareds. Oh, and the 2 goes into 4 twice. So you're left with 3x plus 1 over that 2 when you factor it all out. Gonna be okay, Luke?
That was your job. That was a close mix.
We might as well do 18, because I'm guessing at least one person has a question on that. Yes, no?
Maybe so.
No?
Yes.
Sure.
Remember, inequalities get solved just like equations. The only thing you have to watch out for is negative variables, and we're not going to deal with that there. If this was an equation, how would you solve that? I'll tell you how I would do it that I think would make your life easier. How can I get rid of all these fractions with one fatal swoop? Calvin?
Multiply by 4.
Well, I wouldn't multiply by 4 because that won't get rid of this one. You want to multiply by, what's your common denominator between all those? No. 8. If you multiply every fraction by 8, you are going to get rid of all of the fractions. Because this 4 cross cancels with the 8 to leave you with a 2, and 2 times 3 is 6c. These 8s cross cancel with each other, just leave you with that 3. This 8, 4 cross cancel leaves you a 2 on top. 2 times c is 2c, and the 8 crosses off there to leave you with a minus 5. All they did was multiply everything by 8. Or 8 over 1, if that makes it better for you. Now you just solve it. Subtract 2c, subtract 2c. I get 4c. Do I change the sign with that? You only change the sign when you multiply or divide by a negative. I added. So it's only division. So no, you don't change the sign. Subtract 3, subtract 3. I get a negative 8. Divide by 4. Do I change the sign when I divide by 4? No, so it's not a negative. And c then is less than or equal to -2. And when you graph it, -2, closed circle, going this way. Note to self, multiply by counting. Your name? Is that probability? Yes. Finally. With that being said, I'm going to make sure you have this because I know it's somewhere you know, but apparently nobody can find it. You have to have this table. You must have this really to figure out this problem. This is the chart of all different combinations when you roll 2 die. And it's 2 die for us. I gave this one to you.
No, it's like, it has like wording on it.
She's right.
So here's your probability of rolling either the sum of 5 or a sum of 8. And when it's an or a sum, that means you add their probabilities together. Probability of the sum of 5 add to the probability of 8. Well, how many different ways are there to get 5? 4, right, out of the 36. How many different ways are there to get 8? Is there 5? 5 out of the 36. So the probability of both of those happening is 9/36 or 1/4. If it said the probability of, well, you couldn't even do it of and because there'd be no probability of using 2 different number of cubes. Get both of them together. Evan Torah.
15.
Here, yes. Did somebody do this? There's a couple different ways you could do this. Which way did you do it out as a division problem? Okay, let's just do that. Because it's really, now, if you write it out as a division problem, it looks like this. 6x cubed plus 3x squared plus 9x. Just normal division. What times 3x gives you 6x cubed? 2x squared. You multiply that by that, you get 6x cubed. Change it to its opposite, subtract, it goes away, bring down. What times 3x gives you 3x squared? An x, which gives you 3x squared. You subtract, bring down. What times 3x gives you 9x? 3. Now, if you look at this, what could you factor out of all of those? A 3x. And if you wrote that as a fraction, this over that, the 3x is would cross cancel. You do that, but more than one way to skin that proverbial cat. It's so sad. Last test note. Is there any more? Nobody?
Yeah, can we just do the
Yeah. What's left?
9, 14, 2, 16, 19, 20.
I don't have that kind of time.
16, 19, and 20.
Oh, and 6.
What
Do 20.
No,
I know. 20. I got 6.
I'll just throw this at you. Something is a quadratic if it has an x squared term in it. It can't have higher than that. It can't have an x cubed. But if it has an x squared, you can always rearrange the term so that it's x squared descending order. So as long as it has an x squared, y equals x squared is a quadratic, because you could always put plus 0x plus 0 and make it in its standard form. So as long as there's an x squared term, you're good with that one.
It's valid, yes or no?
Yes, so it's yes. Yes, it does. Which one did you say we didn't do?
Six.
No, 16. No, 20.
Six is last.
Yeah.
Yeah, number 6, just to quickly give it to you here. You look for both the x value and the y value for these, okay? The y one is this number, whatever number's all by itself to the right. The x one is the number you can't have that would give you a 0 down here. What number, when you add it to 7, gives you a 0? -7. That would mean when you graph this, where x is -7, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, you've got this vertical line, and where y is 2, 1, 2, you have the horizontal line. And you remember when we graphed this, you ended up with that shape that looked like this and like this. They didn't ask you to graph it, but that's what you're looking for. 7, the compound inequality. Hopefully this isn't tough because it's just -3 and 2. X is in the middle. Always going to be the less than sign. You don't have any choices there. This one is a colored in dot, so it's an equal. That one is not, so it's not equal.
Wait.
Always going to be less than sign. Now, if it was an or, then you've got some other issues. They go in opposite directions, and be careful with that. If it's or, it's going to be the other way around. But you'll figure that out by looking at it.
Wait, 16.
9, factor the polynomial. This one, you just take out what you can right off the bat. What's a common factor they have? 3 and an x. So you're left with x squared plus x minus 6. And then you have to look, can you factor that trinomial? The 3x stays out here. What times what gives you -6 added together gives you 1. No, 3 and 2. Plus 3 minus 2. This has to be a positive 1, that's why the 3 has to be positive. When you put those together, that gives you 1.
16,
14,
16,
and 19,
16, 20.
16,
It's confusing.
it's not hard, it's just
Yeah, it's confusing. I got so confused.
3m cubed n, did you do it on a big piece of paper?
No. Oh.
Oh.
Calvin.
And again, this is simply about making a common denominator. What is, if you look at the numbers, you're adding fractions that have 2 and 4 on the bottom would be your number. 1/2 plus 1/4, what's your bottom number going to be? 4. Which group has the most m's? This one, so it has to be m squared. Which group has the most n's? They both have n cubed, so n cubed is, and then you need to make those, this is an n cubed, which group has the most n's? They both have n cubed. This one here already is the same, so you don't change the top. You get 15m squared, n squared. What times this gives you this? What are you missing?
Yeah.
2m. So you have to multiply the top by 2m. So you get 6m to the 4th n. Now you can add them together. And here's the question of the day. You're left with 4m squared n cubed. Lutz, what do I get if I add 6m to the 4th n to 15m squared n squared?
6m.
Thank you. 6m to the 4th n plus 15m squared n squared. Unfortunately, you're not done because, what did I do?
Yeah, it's a division.
Well, it says plus.
It's a division. Yeah.
Why didn't you stop me?
I was going to, but I didn't know what they were doing.
You're on a roll, Sarah.
I was on the roll.
Just do it when
Ryan!
No, it's not that hard. It's much easier doing it than this. You just flip and multiply, Evan.
I didn't flip and multiply.
So you multiply by 4m squared n cubed over 15m squared n squared. Then you just cross off like terms.
Oh.
This crosses off with this, m squared with m squared.
I think it's all.
This m with one of those m's, this 3 with that 15, this 2 with that 4, what am I left with? This 1n with this 1n gives me an m. I don't know, after all the gobbledygook, it looks like 2m over 5n? What's the answer?
So,
Yep, m squared, sorry, I missed the square.
what is it?
I'm all flustered because you told me it was an addition.
Because of line.
Which one? 14?
But the 19 and 20.
We might have
I
just
did
enough
it
time.
totally wrong. What is
Oh yeah, this one.
it?
Listen to me. If you got this wrong, it's probably because you have to wait till you get the absolute value isolated before you write your two equations.
Oh.
Okay? You don't write your two equations till you get this absolute value by itself. So you just subtract 4 and you get 12. Absolute value of x over 6 equals 12. How do I get rid of the 6? Multiply by 6. Multiply absolute value of x equals 72. Now that you've got the absolute value signed by itself, you write two equations. One of them is just the way it stands, and the other one is the opposite of that side. You don't have to do any solving because the x was by itself right there.
I was
And
19.
the last two. Now see, right here, people, I see that my letter is negative, which means probably the sign's probably going to change. Oh, maybe not. Because when I do the distributive property, what happens? I get negative 3 plus 3x. Oh, look, it does become positive. Equals 6 times 6 is 36. Stop me there if you miss something. Did I do something that didn't? Get rid of this 3 by adding 3. Add 3. 3x is greater than or equal to 39. Divide by 3. Divide by 3. X is greater than or equal to 13. When you graph it at 13, you have a colored in circle going in this direction. And I don't know, 20, I'm hoping that, I don't know, was there a, did I give you the answer as equal to signs? No, I don't know. Absolute value of x is less than 2.
Yeah.
You do the same thing you did before, except this sign switches, remember? You make this x is less than 2, and x has to be greater than negative 2. Remind yourself, when you switch this with absolute values, when you make this negative, you change that to its opposite. So if you're writing it as a compound inequality, it looks like this. Negative 2 and 2, x, boom, boom. Negative 2, open circle, positive 2, open circle, colored in the middle.
For 13.
We're not going
Can
back.
we, no, can we use the graphing calculator for the test?
What's 13?
For like, or a calculator, like.
Yeah, to do that one?
Yeah.
I said you could.
Alright, I'll move it to the
Yeah.